there were some Republicans that actually laughed out loud, LOL'd, when they heard the proposal from Timothy Geithner. But Obama's opening, basically, is what this piece is about, from Reuters of all people. Fiscal cliff bid seeks debt limit hike and a stimulus. Among all of this stuff, Obama's also going to float that the White House, should be able to control our spending cap. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but our Constitution says that the control of the purse, the control of spending in this country resides in the House of Representatives. The people resides with the people. Come on, folks, let me give you a quick lesson on how and why our government was set up the way it is. Now, keep in mind that prior to 1917, senators were appointed by the state, either by the state legislature of the individual state or the governor of that individual state. They were not elected by the people because we had a true republic. You had representatives, the House of Representatives, because it was supposed to be co-equal branches of government. And now we say that there's an upper house and a lower house. No, we never had an upper and lower house. We had two equal houses. We had the House of Representatives, which were the people's representatives elected directly by the people. There was no delegate voting, no electoral college or anything. They were voted directly by the people within their districts. They were to represent the people and the people's interests. This is why our founding fathers, our framers of this country, said that all spending is in the control and must originate in the House of the people, because the people control the spending strings of their country. They didn't want to put it in the hands of career politicians. They knew better. It was the responsibility of the people. That's why we have all that spending going on, or spending bills originate in the House. The Senate was there to represent the interest of the entire state. Not necessarily the individual people of the state, but the state itself, as in the little nation. Because remember, we are a union of states. We're a union of 50 countries, basically. So you had to have a country representative. So that country representative or state representative was then to be designated indirectly by the people through the people that they voted for in their legislature or their government to look after the interest of the state. And every state had an equal representation or say. The people had equal representation based on their district. So obviously, and population size. So obviously, if a state had a larger population, they were going to have more people in it, more representatives. But at the same time, to balance that and to look out after the interests of the state, the mini country, they each had 2 senators looking out for the goodwill of the state on the national level. And then the people would decide indirectly who was going to be their president or head of state. And they decided that they were going to use an electoral college to try to make it fair. So a few states couldn't dictate to every other state who was going to be their leader. They use this electoral college system to try to level the play. Because, we're always hearing about being fair. Got to be fair. Well, the Electoral College is an attempt to level the playing field. And because now we notice that during with an Electoral College, there are some states that are small, like New Hampshire, that seem to have a big say in who becomes president, and those candidates spend an awful lot of time campaigning. Now, that was the whole point, getting them to pay attention, the presidential candidates to pay attention to the entire country and not just a few big populous states. That was the attempt of the Electoral College to level the playing field. Now, we screwed up our system of government by instituting a constitutional amendment that allowed senators to be directly elected by the people instead of being appointed by the state. Now the states have, understand this, the states have no representation on the national, think about this. The states have no representation in the very government in which they originally formed. And they have no representation in the very government in which they are a part of the union of. Think about that for a second. The state has no representation. None. Zero. I mean, governors can try to do what they can try to do, to try to influence, but there is no representation on Capitol Hill on the federal level of the 50 states. There's none. Nobody's looking out for the interests of the states. Everybody's looking out for the interests of themselves, actually. And this is partly how we got to where we are now. Because I can guarantee you, if we were still running this country like the founding fathers envisioned, and the senators were appointed by the states, we would not have Obamacare, because Obamacare is not in the best interest of the state. Forget the people. Obamacare is not in the best interest of the state. Senators wouldn't have voted for it. So, the liberals have known this for decades. That's why they moved to amend the Constitution to change that system. It was really a liberal thing. They got it passed. And it really came out of the fact that of the Civil War in the South, losing the Civil War. But that's a different history lesson. So now we have Obama, who wants to take part of the spending responsibility out of the hands of the people and put it in the hands of, fleeting administrations, especially his. So he could raise the debt ceiling anytime he wanted without the approval of Congress. That's what he's asking for. At the same time, he wants Congress to also institute a stimulus package. Well, none of his stimulus packages in the past have worked. So what's with another stimulus package? The Obama administration's opening bid on Thursday in negotiations to avert a year-end fiscal crunch included a demand for new stimulus spending and the authority to unilaterally raise the U.S. borrowing ceiling, a Republican congressional aide said. On a proposal made by Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner to congressional Republican leaders on Capitol Hill was seen as offering little the Republicans could agree to and was greeted with laughter. Look, yeah, well, it's not only are foreign nations laughing at our president, but now our very own Senate is laughing out loud. They're LOLing. And while we're paying attention and looking at this potential of going over a fiscal cliff and trying to, we're supposed to be trying to cut spending and all that kind of stuff and looking for ways to cut back on a federal level. What's happening? Obama's, and this is from the Daily Caller. The Obamas are said to spend holidays in Hawaii at a $4 million cost to taxpayers. Now, how much does this administration cost? Now, again, he's the president of the United States. I fully understand that there are certain things that, protection our president has to have. And that protection costs money. I'm fully aware of that. I'm also fully for. I mean, it's a tough job. It's definitely not an easy job. I'm all for the president being able to have a vacation. But let's face it, it's like being in the military. It's 24/7. You're never away from your job. It's, even when you're on vacation. Unlike depending on where you are in the military station at the point, but you could be in Hawaii or Camp David or Martha's Vineyard or Texas or Maine or what have you. Doesn't matter. You're still the president. You're always the president for that 4 years, even when you're on vacation. Nobody else is. It's not like going into the office and you put an email, an automatic email response. I'm out of the office until Obama can't put in an automatic email response. I'm out of the Oval Office until January 3rd. Please see Joe Biden if you need it. That doesn't happen. So I don't begrudge the president having a vacation. However, I do question the amount of money that this administration, this president, has spent in less than 4 years on family outings. I mean, if you were to use constant dollars, no president has ever spent what this man has spent for vacations and such. I know some people say, well, the reason why Jimmy Carter didn't spend as much because, it didn't cost as much. No. I'm saying if you have constant dollars, and they can do that. We do that all the time. In constant, we could pick a particular year and just say, okay, in year $2,000 or year $2012. And we can take what it cost in 1978, and adjust it for, the rate of inflation. And we know how much it would cost today. If whatever they did in 78, we know how much that thing would cost today. And they call that, level adjusted dollars. So in 2012 dollars, no president in 2012 dollars has spent as much as this president has. And this is an economy that's down. So even when you had presidents that were, living and serving during an economic boom like Reagan and even Clinton and Bush Jr., they didn't spend this kind of money. So the first family will be vacationing in Hawaii for the Christmas holidays at a cost of at least $4 million of taxpayers, according to a report from the Hawaii Reporter. Now, if Obama, why doesn't he just go back to Chicago where he's from? I mean, he calls that home. I know he's from Hawaii via Indonesia, but why does he keep going back to Hawaii? Now, you know how long it takes to fly to Hawaii from Washington, D.C.? I mean, what is it? It's 6,000 miles off the coast of California, and it's 3,500 miles from D.C. to California. So we're a $10,000 trip or mile trip. Is that what it is? This correct me if I'm wrong. It's way off the coast. You definitely can't see Hawaii from anybody's house in California. It's way over the horizon. I don't know how far. I think it's about 6,000, 5 or 6,000 miles. In any case, it's a long air flight. But it's Air Force One, and it is. It's longer going there. It takes longer to go because of that's just a scientific fact. It takes longer to go west from the east than it does to go from the west to the east. And that simply has to do with the way, especially over the continent of North America. It has to do with the jet streams and the way the wind blows, as well as the rotation of the Earth. And I know that there are people out there that just don't understand that. And I'm sorry if you don't understand it. Maybe you should have paid more attention when you were in school. All right. Our school system now is controlled by liberals. And they spend an awful lot of money. And we get very little in return. We'll be back.
Wicked wild, wild west, Jim West. want